In the heart of Washington, D.C., tensions were rising. The grand congressional chamber buzzed with anticipation as journalists packed the gallery and cameras rolled. Today's hearing promised to be unlike any other. The famous tech billionaire adjusted his tie as he prepared to testify. Known for his bold innovations and even bolder statements, he wasn't someone who typically appeared in government buildings. Yet here he was, ready to present what he claimed was evidence that would shock the nation. Across the room sat the former high-ranking government official, her face a mask of calm despite the storm brewing around her. With decades of political experience, she had weathered many controversies before. She folded her hands neatly on the table, waiting for the proceedings to begin. "The committee will come to order," announced the chairperson, tapping the gavel. The room fell silent. "Today we convene this special hearing to address serious allegations that have been brought to our attention." The tech billionaire leaned forward to speak into the microphone. "Thank you for allowing me to appear today. What I'm about to share comes from thousands of documents my team has analyzed over the past 6 months." His voice carried throughout the chamber, steady and determined. As he began showing slides on the large screens, whispers rippled through the audience. The documents displayed communications that suggested questionable dealings during the official's time in office. "These records show a pattern," he continued, clicking through to the next slide. "Money moving between accounts, decisions that benefited certain companies, and communications that were later deleted from government servers." The former official shook her head slightly. When it was her turn to speak, her voice remained composed. "What we're seeing here is a misinterpretation of standard procedures. Nothing presented today shows any wrongdoing on my part." But the tech billionaire wasn't finished. He pulled out what he called his smoking gun, a series of encrypted messages that his team had managed to recover. "We found these on backed-up servers that were supposed to have been wiped clean," he explained, as the committee members leaned forward in their seats. The former official's lawyer quickly interjected, questioning the legality of how this information was obtained. A heated debate broke out between committee members about whether the evidence could even be considered. In the public gallery, people watched with wide eyes. Social media exploded with reactions, with millions following the live stream of the hearing. As the day wore on, both sides dug in deeper. The tech billionaire presented technical details about data recovery and digital forensics, while the former official's team questioned his motives and methods. "Why bring this forward now?" asked one committee member. "What do you hope to gain from these allegations?" The tech billionaire paused before answering. "This isn't about personal gain, it's about transparency. The public deserves to know what happens behind closed doors." By late afternoon, the hearing had become the only thing anyone in the country was talking about. News channels ran non-stop coverage. Experts weighed in with analyses, and ordinary people debated what it all meant. As the first day of testimony concluded, nothing had been resolved. The chairperson announced that the hearing would continue tomorrow, with additional witnesses scheduled to appear. Outside the building, reporters swarmed around both main participants as they left. The former official offered only a brief statement. "The truth will become clear as these proceedings continue." The tech billionaire, known for his social media presence, simply said he would let the evidence speak for itself. That night, people everywhere wondered what would happen next. Had powerful secrets finally been exposed, or was this just another chapter in the ongoing drama of American politics? Either way, tomorrow promised to bring even more revelations as the nation watched with bated breath. The second day of the hearing started even earlier than the first. People lined up before dawn, hoping to get seats in the public gallery. News vans crowded the streets around the Capitol building, and online, millions waited for the live stream to begin. Inside, the tech billionaire arrived carrying a small black case. Rumors spread quickly about what might be inside. His team followed with stacks of papers and several hard drives. They seemed confident, exchanging quiet words as they set up their equipment. The former official entered from a different door, surrounded by lawyers. She wore a different outfit today, but the same determined expression. Someone in her group carried a thick binder marked "Rebuttal Evidence." "Before we begin today's proceedings," the chairperson announced, I want to remind everyone that the purpose of this hearing is to find the truth, not to engage in personal attacks. The tech billionaire nodded in agreement as he was called to continue his testimony. He opened the black case and removed what looked like an ordinary flash drive. This contains the complete archive of deleted communications we recovered, he explained, including messages that were sent through private channels specifically to avoid government record-keeping. A committee member asked, "And you're certain these are authentic?" "Absolutely," he replied. "We've verified the digital signatures and timestamps. Our technical experts have prepared a report explaining the verification process in detail." He clicked to display a timeline on the screens. The pattern begins 3 years ago with this message. The screen showed a communication about a policy decision that would affect several major companies. 2 days after this message, donations flowed into certain foundations. A week later, the policy shifted in a way that benefited these donors. This happened not once but 17 times over a 2-year period. The room grew tense as more documents appeared on screen. The tech billionaire's voice remained even as he explained each connection. "This isn't about politics," he insisted. "I've supported candidates from both parties. This is about accountability." When it was the former official's turn to respond, she approached the situation differently than the day before. "Let me be very clear," she began. "I've dedicated my life to public service. These allegations aren't just false, they're impossible. The decisions referenced were made by committees of dozens of people, not by me alone." She opened her binder and presented her own timeline. The donations mentioned came after public announcements of policy changes, not before. This is a clear attempt to create a conspiracy where none exists. The back and forth continued for hours. Technical experts were called to testify about the authenticity of the digital evidence. Former staff members from the official's office gave conflicting accounts of how decisions were made. During the lunch break, people outside the hearing room argued passionately about who was telling the truth. Online polls showed the public almost evenly divided. In the afternoon session, things took an unexpected turn when the tech billionaire revealed something new. "There's someone else who should be heard," he said. He looked toward the back of the room where a person sat quietly, watching the proceedings. This individual worked directly on these communications and was instructed to delete them. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. The chairperson struggled to maintain order as the former official's lawyers protested vigorously. "This witness was not on the approved list," one lawyer argued. "We've had no time to prepare for cross-examination." After a heated debate, the committee voted to allow the new witness to testify, but not until tomorrow, giving both sides time to prepare. As the day's session ended, reporters raced to be first with updates. The tech billionaire stopped briefly to speak with them. "Tomorrow will make everything clear," he said simply. "The American people deserve to know the whole story." The former official left without comment, but her spokesman released a statement calling the proceedings a carefully orchestrated attack based on manipulated evidence. That night, news shows were filled with experts analyzing every word and gesture from the day's testimony. Some pointed out inconsistencies in the tech billionaire's timeline, while others questioned why the former official seemed reluctant to address certain specific messages. As people across the country discussed the hearing over dinner tables and on phone calls with friends, one thing was certain: no one wanted to miss what would happen next. The mystery witness had turned this already dramatic hearing into something that felt like it could change history. The third day promised answers that might finally reveal the truth behind the allegations that had captured the nation's attention. Day 3 of the hearing brought the largest crowds yet. Security had to be doubled as people gathered outside the building, some holding signs supporting the tech billionaire, others defending the former official. The atmosphere felt electric, like something big was about to happen. Inside, the committee room had been rearranged overnight. A special area had been set up for the surprise witness, with privacy screens that could shield their face from cameras, if necessary. Technical staff tested microphones that could alter voices for protection. The chairperson called the session to order precisely at 9:30 a.m. "Today we will hear testimony from a new witness who claims first-hand knowledge of the matters under investigation," Both parties have been given equal time to question this individual. The tech billionaire sat quietly today, his role now mostly that of an observer. The former official appeared tense, whispering constantly with her legal team. When the witness was brought in, many were surprised to see an ordinary-looking person in their mid-40s, dressed in a simple dark suit. This was no high-ranking official or well-known figure, but someone who had worked behind the scenes. "Please state your former position for the record," the chairperson requested. "I was a senior technical advisor in the communications department," the witness replied, voice steady despite the pressure of the moment. "My job involved managing secure messaging systems and ensuring compliance with record-keeping requirements." The questioning began gently, establishing the witness's credentials and employment history. But soon it turned to the heart of the matter. "Were you ever instructed to delete official communications?" asked a committee member. "Yes," the witness replied, without hesitation. "On multiple occasions." A low murmur rippled through the room. The witness continued, describing late-night meetings where strategies were discussed for keeping certain discussions off the record. "I was told it was for national security reasons at first," the witness explained. "But over time, I began to notice patterns. The communications that I was asked to remove often involved discussions about policy decisions that would affect specific companies or industries." The witness pulled out a small notebook. "I kept dates and times, though I didn't dare write down the actual content of what was being deleted. I knew that would put me at risk." The committee listened intently as the witness described a sophisticated system for communicating outside normal channels. There were code words used to indicate when something shouldn't be recorded. If someone said, "Let's go dark on this," it meant switch to the private system. From the former officials table came constant objections. Her lawyers argued that the witness had signed non-disclosure agreements and could not legally discuss internal operations. During a particularly heated exchange, the former official stood up. "This person was fired for performance issues and has a personal vendetta. Everything being said is either exaggerated or completely fabricated." The witness remained composed. "I wasn't fired. I resigned after I refused to delete a particular set of messages that I believed showed clear evidence of improper influence. The next day, I found my computer had been accessed overnight and the messages were gone anyway." As the questioning continued, the witness revealed something unexpected: a small backup drive hidden in the notebook's cover. "I made copies of certain communications before they were deleted. Not all of them, but enough to show the pattern. I've been afraid to come forward until now." The committee called for a recess to examine this new evidence. During the break, the room buzzed with speculation. Outside, the crowds grew larger as word spread about the testimony. When the session resumed, the former officials' team had changed tactics. They now claimed the witness had illegally removed government property and violated security protocols. "Even if these alleged copies exist," argued her chief lawyer, "they were obtained illegally and cannot be considered by this committee." The tech billionaire finally spoke up. "The files on that drive match exactly what my team recovered from the backup servers. They confirm everything I've presented." The committee spent the rest of the day questioning the witness about specific communications. With each answer, the connections between policy changes and financial benefits became clearer. Near the end of the day, the witness looked directly at the former official. "I believed in you. Many of us did. We thought we were part of something important. Finding out that decisions were being made based on who donated the most money, it broke that trust." For the first time, the former official appeared genuinely shaken. Her usual composure cracked as she asked for an opportunity to respond to these accusations tomorrow. As the hearing adjourned for the day, news analysts called it the most dramatic congressional testimony in decades. Social media couldn't keep up with the flood of reactions from people across the country. The tech billionaire made no public comments as he left, but nodded solemnly to reporters. The former official was quickly ushered out a side door, away from cameras. That night, few Americans could think about anything else. What had started as seemingly wild accusations now had a human face, someone who had witnessed everything from the inside and finally decided to speak out. What would tomorrow bring? The nation held its breath, waiting for the former official's response. The fourth day of the hearing arrived with an intensity that surprised even veteran Capitol observers. The line to enter the building stretched for blocks. News helicopters circled overhead, capturing footage of the crowds below. Inside, the committee room was filled to capacity. The former official had arrived early, surrounded by a larger team than on previous days. New faces could be seen at her table, crisis management experts and additional lawyers. She looked determined, her chin held high despite the pressure. The tech billionaire entered moments later, nodding to several committee members. He seemed more subdued today, as if aware that the momentum had shifted away from him. The burden of proof now rested largely with the evidence and the witness's testimony. Most eyes, however, were on the witness who had changed everything yesterday. Seated in the same spot but looking more confident now, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. "This hearing will come to order," announced the chairperson. "Today we will hear the response from the former official regarding the allegations and testimony presented thus far." The room fell silent as the former official approached the microphone. Gone was the dismissive attitude of previous days. In its place was something more measured, more strategic. "Thank you for the opportunity to address these serious claims," she began. "I've spent the night reviewing the testimony and evidence presented. I want to be absolutely clear. I never instructed anyone to delete government records illegally. Never." She paused, taking a sip of water before continuing. "What we have here is a fundamental misunderstanding of how modern government communications work. Yes, there were separate channels for different types of discussions. This is standard practice for sensitive matters. But nothing was hidden from proper oversight." She turned slightly to look at the witness. "I'm disappointed that a former colleague would characterize routine security protocols as something sinister. Perhaps there was confusion about the proper procedures." Her team displayed their own slides now, complex organizational charts and communication workflows. "Our department handled thousands of communications daily. The witness worked in a specialized technical role with limited understanding of the full context of policy decisions. What may have appeared improper was actually part of a much larger process involving dozens of officials across multiple agencies." A committee member interrupted. "But what about the specific messages mentioned yesterday? The ones discussing donations and policy changes?" The former official nodded, seemingly prepared for this question. "I've reviewed those messages carefully. They're being presented out of context. The full conversations make it clear we were discussing how to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. We were explicitly talking about keeping decision-making separate from donation considerations." Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "Furthermore, our technical team has examined the files from the witness's drive. They show clear signs of tampering. Timestamps don't match. Some messages appear to have been edited after the fact." This caused an immediate stir in the room. The tech billionaire leaned forward, whispering urgently to his team. The witness looked genuinely shocked. "That's not possible," the witness interjected. "I never altered anything." The chairperson called for order. "The witness will have an opportunity to respond later." The former official continued her testimony, presenting a different narrative about each of the 17 instances previously highlighted. She explained policy changes as the result of public input, expert recommendations, and changing circumstances, not donor influence. "What's truly disturbing here," she said, her voice taking on an edge, "is how normal government operations are being twisted into something scandalous. This appears to be a coordinated effort to damage my reputation." She turned to look directly at the tech billionaire. "I have to question the motivations behind these allegations. Is this about truth, or is it about influence? About who gets to shape public opinion?" During the midday break, commentators were divided. Some felt the former official had effectively countered the allegations. Others believed she was skillfully deflecting, without actually disproving the core claims. When the session resumed, the former official's team called a surprise witness of their own, a digital forensics expert who had analyzed the messages overnight, and the metadata shows anomalies consistent with post-creation editing, the expert testified. While I can't say with certainty when these changes occurred, these files have definitely been altered from their original state. The original witness requested an opportunity to respond and was granted permission. I swear under oath that I never changed anything in these files. If there are anomalies, they must have occurred during copying or storage. Or perhaps someone else accessed my drive before I turned it over. The tension in the room was palpable. What had seemed like a clear case yesterday had become murky again. Committee members appeared genuinely conflicted about what to believe. As the day progressed, technical discussions dominated. Experts debated file formats, encryption methods, and digital timestamps. The average person watching at home struggled to follow the details but understood the fundamental question: who was telling the truth? Near the end of the day, the former official made her final statement. Throughout my career, I've faced critics and weathered controversies. I've made mistakes, as all humans do. But I have never betrayed the public trust for personal gain. These allegations, however carefully crafted, do not change that truth. As the hearing adjourned for the day, the nation was left wondering what the final day would bring. Both sides had presented compelling arguments. Both had questioned the other's evidence and motives. That night, talk shows were filled with heated debates. Some believed the former official had successfully defended herself. Others thought her explanations seemed too convenient, too rehearsed. With just one day remaining, people everywhere wondered how this drama would end. Would there be a final revelation that settled everything? Or would the truth remain somewhere in the gray area between the competing narratives? Tomorrow would bring the conclusion everyone was waiting for. The fifth and final day of the hearing arrived with a sense of anticipation that had grown beyond Washington to grip the entire nation. Television networks had canceled regular programming to provide continuous coverage. Schools were holding special civics classes to watch the proceedings. In homes and offices across the country, people gathered around screens waiting to see how this modern political drama would conclude. The committee room looked different today. Additional chairs had been brought in to accommodate more observers. Security was tighter than ever. The mood was solemn, with everyone sensing the historical significance of what was unfolding. The tech billionaire arrived first, surrounded by his team but looking oddly relaxed, as if confident in how things would play out. The former official entered minutes later, her expression unreadable behind dark glasses which she removed only after taking her seat. The witness who had caused such a stir with their testimony was escorted in by security personnel, a precaution added after reported threats had been made overnight. This hearing will come to order for its final day, the chairperson announced. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that our purpose is to establish facts, not to serve political interests. Today, each side will have the opportunity to present concluding evidence and statements. What happened next stunned everyone. The tech billionaire stood up. With the committee's permission, I'd like to present one final piece of evidence that I believe will resolve any remaining questions. After receiving approval, he gestured to his technical team. They connected a device to the hearing room's display system. The screens around the room flickered to life, showing what appeared to be an ordinary conference room. What you're about to see is footage from a security camera in a hotel meeting room from 3 years ago, he explained. It was provided to me by someone who was concerned about what they had witnessed but afraid to come forward until now. The room fell silent as the footage began to play. The video showed a private meeting between the former official and representatives from companies that had been mentioned throughout the hearing. The audio was clear enough to hear discussions about policy changes, regulatory approaches, and what was explicitly referred to as financial support. The former official's face blanched. Her lawyers frantically whispered among themselves. This footage has been authenticated by 3 independent forensic experts, the tech billionaire continued. The hotel has confirmed the booking under a shell company name. The individuals present have all been identified. There is no evidence of tampering or manipulation. The committee members looked stunned. This was far more definitive than the disputed electronic messages that had dominated previous days. May I ask how you obtained this? The chairperson asked. A former security employee at the hotel kept a copy of this footage after being instructed to delete it from the hotel systems. They came to me after seeing news of this hearing. The room erupted in chaos. The former officials' team demanded time to review the new evidence. Committee members argued about proper procedures. Journalists rushed from the room to report the dramatic development. When order was eventually restored, the former official asked to make a statement. Her voice was different now, quieter, less confident. "I would like to request a short recess to consult with my legal team," she said. The committee granted a 1-hour recess. As people filed out of the room, speculation ran wild about what would happen next. Had the tech billionaire finally produced the smoking gun? Would the former official continue to fight? Or was this the end of her defense? When the hearing resumed, the change was immediate and obvious. The former official's legal team had been joined by a new face, a prominent criminal defense attorney known for handling high-profile cases. The former official approached the microphone. The room fell completely silent. After reviewing the new evidence, she began slowly, "I need to amend my previous testimony." Gasps filled the room. Nobody had expected this. While I maintain that many of the allegations have been exaggerated or taken out of context, I cannot in good conscience continue to deny that inappropriate meetings took place. The footage shown today accurately depicts events that should not have occurred. She paused, seeming to consider her words carefully. "I want to be clear that not everything described in this hearing happened exactly as portrayed. Politics is complex. Governance is messy. Lines that seem clear in theory become blurred in practice." She took a deep breath. "But that is not an excuse. I exercised poor judgment in several instances. I allowed private interests to have access they should not have had. For that, I take responsibility." The admission sent shockwaves through the room and beyond. Online, social media sites nearly crashed from the volume of people commenting simultaneously. The tech billionaire remained surprisingly subdued, offering no triumphant statements or accusations. Instead, he simply nodded slowly, as if the truth emerging had always been his only goal. The committee chairperson called for final statements from both main parties. The tech billionaire went first. "This was never about personal vendetta or political gain," he said. "It was about ensuring that our government works for everyone, not just those with money and access. The system only functions when there's transparency and accountability." When it was the former official's turn, she spoke with a humility that had been absent in earlier sessions. "Throughout my career, I've tried to serve the public good as I understood it. I still believe in most of the decisions I made. But I lost perspective along the way. Power does that sometimes. It makes you believe the rules work differently for you." She looked around the room. "Whatever happens next, I hope this process leads to better safeguards and clearer boundaries between private influence and public service." As the chairperson brought the historic 5-day hearing to a close, there was a sense that something important had happened. Not just a political scandal, but a moment of reckoning about how power works in America. Outside, as crowds began to disperse, ordinary citizens debated what it all meant. Was this just another chapter in the age-old story of power and corruption? Or was it something more hopeful? Proof that truth can still emerge, even in the most polarized times. News analysts would spend weeks dissecting every moment. Books would be written. Careers would end and begin. Laws would eventually be changed. But on that day, as the tech billionaire and the former official left the Capitol by different doors, both entering uncertain futures, one thing was clear to everyone who had watched. The system, flawed as it might be, had managed to work. The truth, complicated and messy, had finally come to light. As night fell on Washington, people everywhere wondered what would come next, not just for the individuals involved, but for a nation confronting fundamental questions about power, truth, and accountability in the modern age.